Hi everyone, I'm gonna just wait till one more minute and then I'll just start this webinar because I'm 1 minute early. So thank you for joining us. This is part of our, you know, growth formula series, which is a formula that I've done at the back of my book, and it's a new book that I'm going to probably do next year, which will just go over the growth formula. But this series this year has just been going through the growth formula series, and this one is actually starting to look at. It's actually one of the last ones of 2024, but it's actually at the start of my book, The Firm You Want. So the 30 ways to fail. And the reason why I say and how to avoid them, because if you know the 30 ways to fail, and you will see things in here that you will be doing or have done in the past, because I definitely have, and some of them I may still be doing, or we may be within the business, because you don't always know until sometimes it's too late and then you have to do changes. But it's so important to know the ways to fail. So this is part of for accountants and bookkeeping firms. You can actually translate this to normal businesses as well, but there are some things that are specific to accountancy and bookkeeping firms. So if you've seen some of these, you know that we've done a load before. This is today's. We have got removing barriers, growth in September, real life growth lessons, and how to attract clients as well in November. And so those are all there coming up. So more webinars. The growth formula, I'll just go through this very quickly, guys, because we have done it every time, but because it's called the growth formula series, a growth series, I just want to go through it. So growth equals Y plus T plus R plus S. And the brackets are on purpose because you are the most important person to get right first. And we talk about this in the webinars and also in the book. And then the team is important, the rhythm of your business. I found that it was a massive thing for me once I got everything else sorted. If I didn't have the rhythm in both nail accounting and intelligent outsourcing, I would have a big problem. And structure of your organizations, those are all critical, and we've covered all these in the webinars previously, which are these ones, and you can see these, if you haven't, on our YouTube channel. So that's the Intelligent Outsourcing YouTube channel. It's available. It has got better, the webinars have got better as we've gone on, because we've learned from them, and the quality of the recordings got better as well. So which is one reason why one of the webinars I had a big issue, because we were changing the way we did actually record things. So I always love starting with a quote, so the thought of the day. And Thomas Edison, who better to start this with? I have not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. So what this is sort of emphasizing is that there is no such thing as failure as long as you're learning from it and moving forward. And to be fair, you actually learn most from mistakes. So it's just, and Edison, he did have a massive team behind him, even though he had all the patents in his name. They were a whole team there, so it sort of goes into the growth formula as well, you know, with the T in there for the team. But I've also, you know, literally, I've grown Naylor Accounts and Intelligent Outsourcing by making mistakes. And learning from it, and then putting everything in place and learning from other people, which is very key, which is one reason why we do these webinars, is to impart some of the knowledge I've learned through my mistakes, through what I've learned and what the people have taught me. So who am I? I'm going to go through this very quickly, because most of you know who I am. I have I'm an MD of an accountancy firm, Naylor Accountancy Services, which we've grown. I now work probably 2 days a week in that. I've got a team that does all the operational work. I do come in occasionally, but I'm looking at the strategy, because we're looking at acquisitions. I started Intelligent Outsourcing in 2016. And that's growing massively. We've got 3 offices, we've got 100 people, and I'm author of the book, The Firm You Want, which you can get on Amazon or Kindle if you don't have it already. So their gender. So these are the ways to fail. But what I've done is categorized it into 3, because they've got 30. So we've categorized it into 3. Some of them do go over a couple, but I've put income damage. There's 11 in this income damage. Then we've got ensuring how to ensure you have no free time. So looking at time impact, how you can make sure that you don't so fail at giving yourself time. I've got 9 in that, and then I've got 10 in how you are creating problems with your clients and teams. So we'll go through these. I'm going to go through it quite quickly because there are 30 of them. It is in my book, The Firm You Want, like I say as well. So firstly, we'll look at damaging your income, because that's possibly one of the things that can be happening to things that you do or have done in the past, and it's good to understand that so that you can see how you're not to damage your income. And Jonathan Swift, this quote is, "A wise person should have money in their head but not in their heart." So this is, most business owners don't set up their business for the reason of making loads of money. Some people do, but it's to give them a way of life or to do something. So that's why in my opinion, this quote's really good, because yes, we want to be looking at the money, but because without it, there's no long-term future of your business. But it shouldn't be the only reason for being in business. There should be other reasons for you being in business, which helps you create your purpose. Because if it's just finance driven, your purpose won't be strong enough to, unless you are very money driven, to drive you all the way through. So the first one we're looking at, this is one we've done actually a webinar on, having no vision. So the reason I start there is that if you don't have a clue where your business is going or what you want from your business, which is almost why I started with that quote, if you don't know where you're going or what you want, it's very difficult to bring other people on board and even actually get you engaged and moving forward. Now, I did have a problem with this on my vision at the start. I knew part of the vision was to be in control of my own finances, not be working for someone else. But I wasn't driven by money, but I was driven by a purpose. So I had to actually find out my purpose to help me drive my vision. And then that really has driven my vision once I found out my purpose. Now, we have got webinars on the purpose, and it may also be in Naylor Accountancy Services YouTube channel. I can't remember if it's in which one, Intelligent Outsourcing or Naylor Accountancy Services YouTube, but there are things on purpose there as well. But having no vision does have an impact on ensuring that you do fail long term. No plan for your business. Now, this is key to knowing where you're going in the next 12 months. And I do say 12 months, you need to know where you want longer term. But the 12 months is definitely something unique, because otherwise you've got no goals for that year. You're just going along. And you don't track your performance. Now, I didn't really track my performance, believe it or not, at the start. And it was only when I was in a mastermind group and we were all talking about it, and we put massive tracking in place, so KPIs. So once you have a plan and vision, you need to have KPIs in place as well, so to make sure you're driving along that, and then you'd be re-looking at them on a regular basis. That's part of the rhythm of the business as well. And do work for free. So it's very easy, especially when you start out in business, that you do work for free for your friends, and also just for people that you think, oh, I don't, you just want to help people, which is brilliant. But the problem is it takes up your time, which is the next one we look at. So, and you also don't get any money coming in, which means that you can't survive long term within your business. So it's best just to avoid the trap of not doing work for free and actually having a fee for it. Or if you are doing it for free, then maybe say, look, this should cost this. I'm going to give you a credit note for it and send you it. It will be free this time. Next time it'll cost something as well, if you really want to do. But don't underestimate yours as an accountant, bookkeeping, or anyone else expertise, because whatever you do, you've got massive expertise, which doesn't take you long to do something, but you've had to study to get there and have work experience to get there. Now, forget to invoice. This is something which I've seen in an acquisition that we did. I've done it as well, because you're so busy that you don't actually invoice, because you're just getting on to the next job, the next job, the next job, and you're going through it, and then you forget to invoice, and then it's 3 months later and you think, oh, well, should I invoice? Now it's really late. I've got to apologize. I've not invoiced yet. But when I did an acquisition, the first one I did, which is back in April 21, they didn't invoice for so much, and we didn't realize to start off with. So when we're doing year-end accounts, what we were doing is we were telling them, look, you need to invoice for your year-end accounts, because the ones that they'd done previously, the previous year because you haven't invoiced them, because we were doing the accounts and we could see it wasn't there. But we found it virtually 90% or 80, so many of them were not being invoiced, and we actually had to stop doing that because we wanted to make sure we were getting paid for hours, and they just had not invoiced at all, and they were getting stressed about their business, and that's one reason why they sold their business, because it was in a mess when we purchased it. That but they were getting stressed and not getting paid. So at least if you are getting stressed, you want to be paid for it. So you need to make sure that you always don't forget to invoice. So forgetting to invoice, make sure that you fail. Don't chase outstanding payments. Now this is a big one. For when you first start your business, you don't chase because you don't have time, and also you feel guilty chasing potentially as well. And then you don't put the processes in place to do that. So don't chase outstanding payments is a big no-no, because you need to make sure that you do that. Put a payment plan in place if someone can't pay. The only thing is be careful that they don't switch it off if it's a standing order, because then you end up, and then you need to be chasing that if they do, because your direct debit's always better if you're able to put that in place. And there's someone from Gold Cardless that does that, although it's fairly expensive. There's other software that does that now as well, which we're going to be looking into at some point. Never increase fees. Now we've done this because we just forgot to, and we didn't have time. So you start a company off 50k revenue a year. This is accountancy services for limited company accounts. Now 5 years later, 3 years later, they're now earning 250, 500k. It's a different animal, and you need to be charging more and increasing those fees. And it's the same with bookkeeping. So if you're doing bookkeeping, suddenly the transactions ramp up. If you just charge them the original fee, then you can't actually get back the money that you actually should be for that. And we had that as well when I did the acquisition, because we had one of the bookkeepers there that wouldn't take on the work, because she was going to invoice them separately for the bookkeeping, because she had to go to the place to do the bookkeeping in-house, unless we increased the fees, because the fees were not going to cover her normal costs that she had been charging this accountancy firm that we purchased. So they were actually losing money on this bookkeeping job because they hadn't increased the fees, but the person that doing the work had increased theirs. So make sure you increase fees, because otherwise your salaries of all your team will be going up, inflation is going up, and then even if you're not doing anything, the business itself might be doing more as well, and then you're losing money. So this is why it's an income impact. So have no idea of your finances and keeping track of expenses. Now it is a good thing, like with advent of cloud accounting, which has been with us years now, decades. So always at least monthly look at your P&L, your profit and loss, and just your balance sheet. Make sure you've got the cash, if not more regular, just to make sure you are on top of everything in your business. Because what happens with accountants and bookkeepers, we tend to look after everybody else's but not our own. So we do need to look at that. Otherwise, if you don't, your expenses go too high, you are going to fail. And carry on doing work for clients who don't pay and don't even intend to pay. So this is you lose income and time by doing this. So it could be in the time factor as well, because you're continuing to do items of work just for someone that you know is never going to pay, and you're getting stressed for it. So you are doing it for free as well, because you know they're not going to pay, even though they should be paying. Or it might be somebody who's not been paying you if you do a monthly payment, or they owe you something else. So you need to get that paid really before you have that done, unless you have some arrangement with them. So you may do that or may a payment plan, that's fine, but doing the work for someone who's not paying is a way to fail and impact your income. So that leads us on to a second category, which is no free time. So the big thing with any business owner is your time, and it's so critical to make sure you utilize it effectively for you and your business, and making sure that your business is going to continue in the future. Now, Jim Rohn, if you know Jim Rohn, he's amazing talk speaker, and he's got loads of books out there as well. He mentored Tony Robinson, if you know Tony Robinson. But this quote is brilliant. So time is more valuable than money. You can get more money, but you cannot get more time. Now, that is so true. You can't get your time back. And Pareto's rule is that, you know, people tend to spend 80% of their time on something that doesn't make any difference, whereas the 20% that you do, it makes a difference. So you need to focus on that 20% and focus less on the 80%. But that's a different topic. One thing, and I always say this, is delegation. It's the number one way of ensuring that you have no free time, is never delegating. I had this at the start when I started getting a team. There was things I didn't delegate, partly because I didn't think the team could do it or anything, which was rubbish. But it is something that you need to be looking at all the time. By failing to delegate, you are failing as well, because you are going to be actually having too much time to focus on things that you don't need to. And you can't take everything on yourself. There are certain things you have to take on. So I do take things on sometimes that are new, get them all set up, and then pass them on to someone that I know can take it forward. But it's still an issue all the time. I'm always looking at how to delegate, because never delegating is a big issue on your time sap. And you have everything in your head. Now, if you don't write your systems and processes down, there's a big problem. Now, you don't have to do this. You could train somebody in it, on video it, on Loom, on Teams, on Zoom. Have it all videoed, so you got, you know, you're doing it on each PC, and then you can even transcribe it. You can ask the Copilot or ChatGPT just to create it into a procedure, or you can get the team member that you're training just to put it all in a procedure, and then you can review it. You don't have to do it if you haven't got it written down, but having everything in your head is a sure way of not being able to delegate and not being able to move things forward. So and you might forget things as well, or someone else might. Now, this is something that when I was in industry, I wish I'd looked at more different types of personal development rather than just one type, which was just all about mastering new professional skills. It's the self-development element as well, your personal development, your soft skills as well. So not investing in your own personal and professional development is a sure way to fail. And sometimes it can seem counterintuitive to invest time, but it does save time in the future, because you then are able to realize how to manage people, how to lead people, how to do some work better and quicker, and even know of technology that's potentially out there. So it's a very big thing, and I know we've gone through this, the Achievers Matrix, and and this sits in the important, not urgent box, which is often forgotten, which is sort of the top right hand corner, which is sort of the Eisenhower Matrix, which Stephen Covey sort of brought to life in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So this does sit in that top right hand corner of important, not urgent. And this is a big one, which is strange to some people, because it doesn't feel comfortable. Never push yourself out of your comfort zone. The reason why this is an issue in your time is that if you don't do something that is uncomfortable or you don't really like doing, you're never going to develop yourself and push yourself, or anyone else will do that as well. They're not going to push themselves. If you just keep everyone in their comfort zone, that's why delegation, you need to delegate to people, because they push out of their comfort zone and they learn and they expand and grow. So you do want that for learning and growth, and also be able to help others to grow as well. It's never comfortable. I mean, I've done talks. My focus this year was to do talks, obviously do webinars, and I've done quite a lot now this year, but I really wasn't comfortable at the start. Even now, it's out of my comfort zone when I step up in front of people, but it's something I'm wanting to develop, and it's actually helping me develop myself. So think of that as well. So here, everyone makes mistakes, and especially when trying something new outside of your comfort zone, which is what we just spoke about. So some will not admit to their mistakes, and And this, if you're the boss or if someone's a boss, it can be your ego, or even if you're not a boss, it's the ego, will not allow them to be seen to make mistakes. Um, but you do learn from these by publicly admitting mistakes, and other people learn from them. So on the acquisition, again, there were so many issues in that first acquisition in 2021, but we had the business owner not admitting mistakes. She was blaming everybody else, anybody else. It was whoever it was in her company for filing everything late. It wasn't the fact that she wasn't reviewing things. So what I found is she was blaming everyone, but it was actually them not reviewing them when they actually had them complete. So they may have finished them after 6 months of the year end, but they didn't review it until the 12th month because they always extended their year end. So that's blaming as well, which is below the line, which we say is a no-no. But you need to learn from your mistakes and admit to them, and it's a massive thing. And if you don't do that, it's a sure way to fail, because you're not looking at how you can improve. By admitting to your own mistakes, even if it's just to yourself, then you know what you need to be changing and what you need to be looking at developing. So it's a key critical in any business, that, and any way of life. Everyone uses their own processes with nothing written down. It's a bit like having everything in your head, but if your whole team has everything in their head, everybody's and does the same process, everyone's going to do it differently, because they may have been taught by one person, but then they're going to go off and do something different all the time. So the whole point of there is that you're not going to be able to grow your business. You're also not going to be able to replace somebody easily if somebody's leaving your business or your firm, and if it's written down, it's far easier to replace someone because they can just follow the procedures. And then keep them up to date as well. So write them in Word. We use Suite Process. There's other things that you can use as well, software. And then keep them updated. So we have something called Project Perfect. So any changes, issues that we have, we will then discuss them and create a solution, and then change the process, and then get the team to change that process in Suite Process or Word or whatever you have. And then they make sure it's implemented and reminded every quarter of that. So yeah, and then this is another one. Do not keep up with changes in accounting regulation and tax laws. I'm blessed with a great team that do all this, so they keep up to date with all the tax laws and changes. But by not, and we also give them the opportunity to do that. So you don't want to be redoing work, because that's the sure way to fail, because you then actually end up redoing the work, and you lose clients potentially as well. This is something that is always difficult, but keep clients who are unpleasant or cost you money. So the reason they might cost you money is because they're unwilling to pay for extra services that they've wanted in the past, and then you're too polite to say, well, I'm not going to do it anymore unless you pay us. So it's not getting paid for it. And then they may be late with information, or blaming you and your team all the time, and there's no mutual respects. But even if they're late all the time with information, that's extra time, because you need to then chase them more. Somebody has to chase them. There's more emails and everything like that. So it tends to waste you and your team's time if they're unpleasant and not very cooperative at getting information, and it can be painful to work with. And it can be a way of setting up a fail, especially if you've got lots of these. Now, one way to make sure that you are being recompensed for anybody who is a bit unpleasant or is late at getting information is by charging them more and saying, look, this is the fee because of X, Y, Z. If they're taking long to, and the extra services are late, and then you don't mind if they stay because you're getting recompensed financially, or your team are. But if they leave, you don't mind either, because you're not making money on what they were doing anyway, and they were actually unpleasant as well. So but you can also just exit people, obviously, as well. Do not train your team. So you want to always be looking at a training program. Make sure there is development of them, not just your own self-development, and ongoing professional development. Because again, it goes into the fact that if they don't know what they're doing, or they're not trained, they're going to take more time. They're going to be less efficient, less effective. They might make mistakes. So it's vital you train them or get someone else train them, or they train each other. Do not invest in technology or streamline your firm's operations. Now, this is something we've always looked at. So looking at technology to streamline our operations and also our clients and partners' operations, because that means that they work more efficiently and get better data and can do more efficient work. It just frees up your time. It frees up other people's time. So, likes of Dext, HubDoc, Xero, QuickBooks, all those technologies also give you real-time information as well as a streamlined technology. We have Teams, so Office 365, and they use this. It's their Slack as well for chatting with each other, making sure they're coming up, having Teams meetings and things like that. All of this helps be more efficient, but investing in technology to streamline your firm definitely is a way to fail. If you don't and you just paper-based or something, it's going to take lots of extra time. This comes on to our third and final category. So there's 10 in this. There were 9 there in time. So creating problems with your clients and your team basically as well. So you may be inadvertently doing this. You might be blaming them on thinking they're playing you up, your clients, and everybody actually might be you. So these are a few ways that you might see yourself creating some issues and setting yourself up to fail if you continue down that. Or you may have done it in the past, or you may see it in other people. Again, another quote, because I love my quotes. This is an unknown one though, but some people create their own storms and then get mad when it rains. So it's a great quote, and we do often create our own problems and fail because of the very problems we have so basically inadvertently created in the first place. And it is always easier to blame people. I mean, I experienced that with other people. I'm sure I do it occasionally as well. I try and pull myself back on it as much as possible, and we do ask other people to pull me back or anyone back on it when we blame anyone. And it may sound harsh, but lose out. If you're blaming, you are losing out. So make sure you're not creating the storms. So this goes a bit about the free work, but put free work or non-paying clients ahead of those paying on time. So we did do this, and we have done it in the past, especially at the start, that you are doing a favor for somebody, but they're not paying you, or they're not going to pay you for it. But you need to make sure that you are keeping your existing or your clients and partners that are paying happy, because you want to get their work done first. Then when you've got time, you can do the free work. Because you need to make sure the non-paying clients aren't getting priority over the ones that are paying, that are keeping you and your salaries paid every month. Never listen to your team. Now, listening is so important as a leader. It's the most important thing that I've actually had to develop, because I think at the start I was good at talking all the time and not listening good enough. So it is a big thing in one-to-one meetings, listen more than you speak. I mean, they always say you've got one mouth and 2 ears for a reason. So use your ears more than your mouth. People will tell you a lot more as well if you listen. So listen to your team. You will learn a lot from them as well. So by failing to listen and just telling them all the time is definitely a way to fail. Do not get rid of poor performing team members. Now, in order to know they're poor, you also need KPIs and everything and management in place. But bad apples being allowed in your business can infect everybody. It has happened to us. When we first started offshoring in Naylor Accountancy Services, we had somebody who really was against it. They were a good accountant, but they were totally against offshoring and having people in the Philippines working within Naylor. They didn't think they could do what they did or anything, which they were proven wrong. They did leave later on because they just couldn't handle that change. But it creates negativity in the team and then brings the rest of the team down. So it is a way to fail and also you don't get the output that you need. So that might be the number of accounts, the bookkeeping, or it might be a service that you provided to a client. It's not happening in time or as effectively as it should do. Allowing scope creep, my goodness, it's a very big one that everybody tends to happen, especially at the start when you're not clear on all the service that you do, and also with team members, because team members think, oh, this is easy. I'm just going to do this because it's not going to take me long. But they, like I've said before, they don't think, or you might not think of all that experience that you've gained through the years of doing accounting, bookkeeping, and also the exams you've done make it easy for you. It's not easy for other people. They'd have to Google it, they'd have to search it, they'd have to ask an expert and everything. So make sure that there's no scope creep and you can do that by having a good proposal. They've got a good scope of work that's out there, and then you increase the services, the fees as the services that they want, your clients want happen. But you need your team members to communicate that with you, or with anyone else in the leadership team, because otherwise you would have no clue that it's happening. And it is impacting both income, but it's the way you failing by allowing it in the first place. I'm saying, worry about clients leaving. Now, if you have somebody that's making up 20% of your turnover, you are definitely going to be worried about them leaving. So the big thing there is make sure you have no more than 10% in one client partner. If you do then have more than that, it is a bit more risky for you. You don't want to be in a position to be worried about it and doing everything for free. You want to be charging for your services and not feel that you held over a barrel with anybody, because you want to be able to just work and operate freely, and not worrying about people leaving. You want to do the work and the quality of work that you do. So don't worry. So worrying about clients leaving is a way potentially that you can create failure. Working to HMRC deadlines. Now this was a massive thing that we looked not to do when we set up Naylor Accountancy Services. So we saw it in our acquisition that they were doing everything after the deadline, actually 12 months, because they were extending it by just changing the accounting dates at Companies House by one day backwards. So instead of the 31st of December, it was the 30th of December, but by the time we were doing them, like the 28th of December. So by doing that, you have 12 months, but they were working there. So what happens if you do that is you telling your client the day before or on the day, you need to pay HMRC £10,000 today. And that's what was happening with us when we first took on this acquisition. We've gradually got it back to 3 months after year end when we want it to happen. We do have some over that. It's about 40% at the moment of other ones on an acquisition that we've just done, and we're just pushing them back down to the 3 months. So it's sort of as much as possible. It's not always possible because some clients give you information late. So in that position, that's their issue. But what we've done for this, because it puts us under stress when you work into the client works to the deadline, especially on self-assessments, that we've got people who just do self-assessments. We've got them paying more if they do it in January, December, because that's more stress for us. We have to do it. So what we've done is say, this is the fee for your self-assessment if it's Jan, December. If you get all the information to us by July, you get this discount, like £200 discount. If it's before October, you get 100 discount or 150, whatever it is the discount is, and then after October or November, whatever the date is, then you pay this extra price. It just goes up. So they can still get it at the normal fee that we'd probably charge, but otherwise they'd be paying the higher fee. And what we found is that some of them are still going to the deadline because that's just how they operate, but they don't mind paying because they know the reason for them paying, and we don't mind the stress as much because we're getting paid extra as well. But it has worked with about 80% of the clients giving us information earlier. So working to the HMRC puts you under stress and your team under stress, and it's a definite way to fail. And your clients, because if they don't know what they need to pay until the VAT deadline, PAYE deadline, whatever, it's not nice for them either. Oops, just go back one. Communicating effectively to both your team and clients. Now, it does create problems, and you want to make sure that it's all communicated, especially with clients. If they think that you are if a client thinks that you're doing something for £2,000 when you're really doing it for 3 times that amount, this is just an example, like £6,000, that is going to be an issue. So make sure communication is effective to make sure you're not failing. So communicating ineffectively will definitely make you fail for both your team, because they'll do the wrong thing, and your clients will expect different things to what you're going to deliver. Now, I love this one because if you do not trust anyone, you're going to be micromanaging everything, and it doesn't mean that you can't move forward and delegate as well. Now, trust is just a waste of time. So you've got time here, but it's you actually creating that problem because you don't trust people. You do have to trust people. It's easy when you trust people. Obviously, if people lose your trust, that's a different story. Then they need to rebuild it, or you need to exit that person. But having trust really helps. And again, we saw this in the acquisition in 2021 because the owner did not trust other people. That's why she wouldn't delegate anything. They were the only one that could do filings, even though it was already there, or reviews or anything. It was very just a nightmare. And so trusting people helps you get out of a time issue, and also by not trusting people, you are definitely creating issues. Your team never learns from their mistakes. If you don't worry about and then it's an issue for you that you are creating, and you should have systems and processes in place. We have like Project Perfect, so if anything goes wrong, we look at the processes and systems, and then look at how to develop it so that, or put something else in place to make sure that never happens again. So it's making sure then that everyone knows that, but you need to, as the leader, or other people in the leadership team, need to make sure that any mistakes are actually noted, and a solution to making sure that doesn't happen. You might mean retraining that person or upskilling them. If they keep doing it, then you have to be looking at, disciplinary, and then exiting the person if they're really not capable of doing whatever the work is that you need them to do. But people must be learning from the mistake. If they make the same mistake over and over again, that is an issue, and it's a way to fail. Now, I believe this is the last one, but it is, yeah. So procrastinating. Now, I left this to last because by procrastinating about everything, nothing gets decided, nothing happens, and it may be too late. And it's best just to decide something and move forward, and then whatever happens, you need to then make a new solution if it's not the right one. But procrastinating on everything means that you're doing everything slowly. It means your business is moving slowly as well. So procrastination is a massive thing. I think it was Napoleon Hill had it, I think To Grow Rich. It's that's back in the 30s, I think it was 1930s. But procrastination is a massive thing that will help you fail if you do it far too much. So I have done a whistle stop tour there. That's about almost a minute per way to fail. So I hope that was useful. But now you should know the ways that you can fail by damaging your income. So I had 11 of those. We had 9 of how you are ensuring, or how to ensure that you have no free time, which is a massive thing. Time, you cannot get time back. You can make more money, but you can never make more time. And also we've looked at how, there was 10 of these, how you are creating or could be creating problems with your clients and team. And that's a massive thing. So those were the 3 main topics. So income, time, and just self-inflicted issues as well. And there was 30 of those. So what's the thing to take away from this? I should have said please take notes if there's anything there. If you have got my book, it's all in my book, The Firm You Want, and there's also examples throughout the book on things that happened within our business of Naylor Accountancy Services, and some intelligent outsourcing that sort of reflect back on these problems and how we've dealt with them, or we've seen it being an issue. But if your thoughts are, what is my first step? Just identify any that are actually in your business, and then see what you can do to go forward. I mean, the big thing is, you know, trust, delegate, and don't procrastinate. And the big eye opener for me was, and I'm not going to go into it too much because I've talked about it in other webinars, is, and especially in how I nailed the way I nailed narrow accountancy services. That was all about building an offshore team and getting the right team in the UK so that I could then step back and grow both businesses. But that was using intelligent outsourcing as the offshore and creating the offshore team in the Philippines, along with the UK team, because it just sort of minimized my risk and costs and everything, and took the recruitment away from UK and somewhere else where it's been a lot worse to recruit, more difficult, shall I say. So think of those steps. Now I'm going to leave you with a quote, but there'll be Q&As after this, so I should have said that. So the parting thought I've got is Henry Ford, and I'm sorry if you've seen this quote before. I love this quote. The only real mistake is the one from which you learn nothing. So it's a big thing. You do learn from your mistakes as long as you want to. Those that don't learn from mistakes, they're not going to be succeeding, basically. So it's a really big one. The only real mistake is the one from which you learn nothing. So I hope that's useful. Now, I know I've whistle-stopped to all that, but it's now the Q&A. So if you've got any questions, do put them in. I'm just going to have a quick glimpse if there are any. And here, I've got one already. Sarah, how did you go about getting the internal deadlines in place from all the jobs that were running to HMIT's deadlines? Well, what we did, there's a few things we did here, Sarah. So what we did is we created internal KPIs. So the internal KPIs were making sure, so say for VAT, the big one for VAT was that I said initially, this is one of the KPIs and we had to change, and you may have to change KPIs once you put them in place. But for VAT, what we did was I said, look, you have to get it filed by the 25th of the month. And that was it. That was the KPI. But what we found is that loads of them were going over, and the blame was coming back. And this is from the team members. Oh, the client didn't give us the information in time. So what we looked at, what can drive the client to actually give us the information sooner? So we created that KPI to you must contact the client on a VAT return 4 times by the 20th of the month. So if it is the 30th of, let's say the 31st of July, VAT year end date, quarter end, then by the 20th of August, they would have had to have contacted that client 4 times via email, phone, whatever. So, and they have to have done that. And what we found by contacting them 4 times by the 20th of the month, that deadline was happening. So they were all getting filed by the 25th, and definitely none going into the following month. So if it was 31st of July, they weren't getting filed in the beginning of September, when the deadline is. So that's how we worked that one out. For year-end accounts, what we do is we have an internal deadline that is 3 months after year end. Now, it's very difficult to push that down to the team member, because it depends if the client's actually getting the information to them, as you know. But we had that there. So what we looked at in the leadership team is the ones that were over, and that's what we're doing now with our last acquisition that we did in October last year, is that we're looking to move them down. It's moved down massively because we had over 60% of year ends over 3 months. Now it's about 40, just over 50, 45 or something like that, and we're looking to get it down to 40, and then it's going to go down to 20, and then it should virtually all be only 10%, because you normally get about 10% after that. But it's communicating with that admin, looking to get that information. Team members having their own KPIs as well. There is a great book, Banish the Bottlenecks by Simon Chaplin. I have mentioned this before, Sarah, so I'm not sure if you've got that. but it's a very good one. It's on Amazon. That helps with KPIs on this sort of thing as well. But it's driving it down through KPIs, having the jobs not as the deadline. So we have a red deadline is the actual deadline date. That's the non-negotiable. But we have other deadlines in between which come up in our practice management system, which is there's no brilliant one out there, Sarah, but it's Bright Manager. So we have that coming up there, so it goes red, but we also have KPIs every week that we look at, and on what, and especially every month, just to make sure that everything's moving in the right direction. I hope that's answered your question, Sarah, but it is sort of data driven and making sure all the systems are in place. So I hope that's good. So any others? So how many of the ways to fail have you done? To be honest, probably all of them at some point. And we may be still doing some, because it's very difficult when you have a team to know which ones we look to. If we find that there's any issue or any problems, we will always look to improve it and make sure that we put things in place, like I said, in the systems and processes to ensure that it does happen. But we can never guarantee it, unfortunately. It's just one of those things. You never know. So I hope that makes sense. Anything else? Oh, why do you highlight the ways to fail? So it's very simple. If you can see. So what I found with talks I've done as well, if you highlight the ways to fail, and that's why I start with the ways to fail, you can actually, as an accountant, a bookkeeper, a firm owner, you can see yourself in some of those ways to fail. If you don't, you are a genius, because everybody I know has made mistakes in there that are in that 30, if they're not making them now or still. So the way of doing that is that if you know ways to fail, it brings you the ways not to fail, because if you know how to fail, you almost need to just do the opposite and you're not going to fail. And it's not easy just to do that, obviously, but that's one thing that you want to be looking at. And that's why I start with those in the book as well, The Firm You Want. And I find it actually useful for myself to read them occasionally, because it just reminds me of what they are, why we're doing certain things, and also are we still doing something, or has something happened? Are we doing scope creep? Are we doing the fee reviews, and all this? So it's just that is the big thing. So I hope that makes sense. And just be very clear, by failing and making mistakes, it's helping you succeed, as long as, like Henry Ford says, you learn from them. And that's the main thing. So I hope that makes sense. Are there any other questions? I think that's a pleasure, Sarah. So, all right. By procrastinating, are you not ensuring you do not make the wrong decision? But if you are not making a decision, this is my argument here and other people's argument, you are best making a decision, and that might be a decision not to do it. By procrastinating and not making a decision not to do something or to do something, you're not doing anything, because you're not made a decision. So you're better doing something, and if it is the wrong decision, you just change your course or you make it right. So procrastinating does really frustrate me. I know my wife's not going to watch this, but my wife procrastinates so much over things like, should we do this, that, the other? And I will have said yes 3 times to something, and she'll still say, should we do this? And for me, you just make the decision, go ahead and do it, and then you move forward. But you need to look at what you can control. So you can control not making the decision, as in making the decision not to do that, or decision to do something. But you make that decision, and you can't then procrastinate. You then just move forward with it, and then you can delegate things as well, because if you know you're doing something, that's great. Get it in place and then delegate it, or talk to your leadership team about things, get a solution, and then go forward with it. But always, it is a Napoleon Hill thing. Procrastination does really impact everybody. I had a friend at university who used to We had an assignment to do. You know, we had loads of assignments, but he would, you know, he went to the library, read the newspaper. He didn't go and do work. He just read the newspaper, procrastinated about it all, and then would do it on the last day. Even if we'd had a month to do the work in, he'd do it on the last day because he just sat there reading the newspaper, and that's because he's procrastinating. So you best just going ahead, making a decision, and taking the pain if there's pain, of time or whatever you put into it, and then moving things forward. So I hope that answers that. Any others? All right. Why is never pushing yourself out of your comfort zone a way? Why is never a way to fail? So why is never pushing yourself out of your comfort zone a way to fail? The way I see it is if you keep doing the same old thing, you're going to get the same old answer. So the only way you get, and that might be fine. So you might be absolutely fine. You might be happy where you are. You might not want to change anything. But if you want to change something, you have to push yourself out of your comfort zone to develop yourself and to move things forward, however that might be. So it is something I believe in. And I do think pushing yourself out of your comfort zone does develop you as an individual. But if you are happy where you are, you don't need to do it, but it's just a way of moving things forward potentially. How do you ensure your team learn from their mistakes? Well, this is a difficult one, but the way is document the mistakes, which what we do, as long as people are telling you about them in Project Perfect. We do have an issue, people aren't always telling us, so we say, look, we've really not made any mistakes this week. And it's making sure, well, we've got core values of care and excellence, so it's breeding those into your team as well, making sure that they have those so that they are looking for excellence and care within what they do, excellent service and caring for their team member, caring for the client they're looking after, and then by learning from it to be more efficient and effective for whatever service they're doing. And also making sure you've got training in place, processes, make sure they're updated, retrain people when you need to. And if people do continue to make mistakes, you need to have a conversation with them, and they need to be disciplined and eventually exited if they keep making mistakes, if they're making a massive issue on your business and it's not working how you want to do it. So I hope that's explained that. So how do you ensure your team learn from their mistakes? If there's no more, we're coming up to virtually 50 minutes, I think. So I'm just over. So I'm going to, if there's no more questions, I'm just going to finish off. Just checking. Oh, cool. So I've just got one more quote after all those, because this is one I thought would come up potentially, but is Arena Huffington of the Huffington Post. Now, I've just watched something on her, an interview, which was really quite interesting, just learning about how she operated. But if this actually really rings true to me, and what I've learned. So we need to accept that we won't always make the right decisions, that we'll mess up royally sometimes, understanding that failure is not the opposite to success, it's part of success. So it's looking at failure as part of success. And we will all mess up, and that is one that I've messed up, but you learn from them, and it's part of the way you succeed. In the US, the big thing in the US is that lots of entrepreneurs, they fail with their first businesses. They all, and it's not seen as a bad thing. And then they start a new business and they do really well, but it's because they learned from the first business that they failed at. In the UK, we tend to be totally against failure, and if somebody fails at a business, we're never going to give them an opportunity again because they failed. They've not learned anything from it, we think. But the thing is that you do, well, not everybody, but most people learn from their mistakes and they get better and succeed, because failing is part of success, becoming successful. So I hope that is useful, because it's come into some of the questions as well, which and everything, it brings a lot of things together that we've talked about. So I hope that that is something that's useful. So I'm just going to bring this out here. So if you haven't got a copy of The Firm You Want, my book, it is available on Amazon and Kindle. So please do take a look at that. We are going to be at Countex Manchester or North in September, so we'll be giving this away free as well. So if you are there, do come along. We tend to be doing that when we come into the Countex. And you'll see these 30 ways to fail in there, and lots of stories around everything. There's lots of pictures as well to make it easier read as well. So it's a very good, easy read. Well, an easy read. I wouldn't say good, but an easy read and very useful. So up and coming webinars. So if you want to join us, we've got the one in September, removing your barriers to growth, the real life growth lessons, and how to attract clients you want. So those are all coming up in the future. Thank you for your time. If you are interested in knowing a little bit more, I know lots of you know about offshoring already, but if you do want to know more, do DM me on LinkedIn or contact us on info@intelligent-outsourcing. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you. Bye.